So, can you give me, there's a blue Cine phone. Cine. So this is the schedule. Did you tell everyone about the schedule that we have? Oh, okay. We're going to go to Bazaar. A lot of people down there? The monkeys. Yeah, they heard it too. What's that? They didn't steal anything from you? What's that? Monkeys are actually trained to steal things, especially glasses. So this is our schedule for the program. On Monday, 9:30 to leave for Govardhan and visit Govardhan, Radhakund, then Kusa Sarovara, Manasiganga, Govindakund, Govinda Palace, and then return. Tuesday, Vrindavan Parikrama in the morning, and then Wednesday, Varshana, and then Thursday, Vrindavan Parikrama. So I'm going to I'm just going to read some verses from the Bhagavad Gita. And this is from chapter 5. Bhagavad Gita is, does anyone need a Parivochaka? Понимаете по-английски? Чуть-чуть. Well, here's a Parivochaka.
You can swap.
And traductor. Anyone need translation for my English? Brooklynese is a very rare language. Spoken by around 5 million people in Brooklyn. So this is from the 5th chapter called Krishna Consciousness, Action, Devotional Service, Action, and Krishna Consciousness. So most of the Bhagavad Gita is meant to convince us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest truth. In many chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states that he's God. Which probably doesn't surprise most of us. And then he goes on to explain how we can understand that he's God. So in this 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states, what is it? Yanena tutad agyanam yeshanashtam atmanam yeshanaditiva gyanam akashiti taparam. I shall read the previous verse in the purport. Nadate kasite papam Napatam Sukutim Vidu Agana Navitam Dhyana Mungati Jantava. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. We have a phone. Do you have an iPhone? With a database on it? There's chapter 5, text 15. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So I'll read that again. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. In other words, Lord Krishna is not responsible for what we do wrong. And what we do wrong is that we desire things outside of Krishna consciousness. So either sinful or pious activities, they're all sinful. If Krishna is not there, then Krishna's story is Samamaya and Vikar, Yaham Krishna, Taham Maya, Taham Harikar, Taham Harikar. But Krishna is like the sun, and Maya is like darkness. Wherever Krishna is, there's like the sun. When Krishna's absence, it's like darkness. You can take one of those pillows if you'd like to sit on. Now, most of us, we've been in darkness since time immemorial, so we're rather comfortable in the dark. It seems quite normal to us. And as soon as we see the light, it kind of like disturbs our eyes. So we prefer the darkness sometimes. And when we come to the platform where we think we're pious, that's also darkness. Because we're the consciousness within the body, and therefore all we're doing is really observing what's going on, what our activities are. So if we're performing devotional service in Krishna consciousness, which is the name of the chapter, then we're properly situated. And when we do anything else, either in goodness or passion or ignorance, then we're just living a dream. Could be a bad dream in ignorance, and could be a nice dream in goodness. But after all, it's just a dream. The difference is in goodness, we're more likely to be aware of the fact that we're dreaming. In ignorance, we're completely oblivious to what reality is, practically speaking. Now, unfortunately, most of the world is in ignorance, as you probably have noticed lately. I think Donald Trump said that it's not really clear, but he lies so much, they can't even remember what their lies are. Luckily, in Kali Yuga, for them, people's memory is so short, they don't know when people are lying anymore, because they can't remember what they said before. Unfortunately for us, they tell us that, for instance, this war, at first they said it was only going to last for 4 days. Then they said 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. Now they say until September. But that's exactly what they said about every war. It's going to be over overnight. The war in Afghanistan lasts for 10 years. It's supposed to be over in a week. So this is a great yuga to learning tolerance. If tolerance is one of our main lessons we have to learn, there's no better time to come to the material world than in Kali Yuga. So what is tolerance? Tolerance means that we're identifying or misidentifying ourselves with this gross and subtle body, and it's pushing us in all different directions, except for Krishna consciousness. So when we tolerate, as Krishna will say, it's said in this chapter, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasyaste Sitam Vasi Naiva Dvare Pare Dehi Naiva Korvana Karyam. When the embodied soul master the city of his body, what is it? Does not create activity. Sarva. When the embodied soul controls his nature, mentally renounces all actions, he lives happily in the city of nine gates, neither acting nor causing work to be done. So when we see that we're actually simply the consciousness within the body, we're the soul that has consciousness within the body, and therefore we take shelter of the instructions of Krishna through his representatives. Luckily for us, somehow or another we have the good fortune of coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and taking it seriously, his instructions and example, seriously enough to stay in the ISKCON and try to tolerate what's ever going on here. Because although sometimes the devotees that we associate with and the leadership, whatever, maybe it's sometimes disappointing to us, but Srila Prabhupada is, basically speaking, he explains about three things: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are the only knowledge that really exists. Everything else is just mental speculation. The fact that we're eternal, and that there's a super soul in everyone's heart, and that the goal of life is to reach Krishna. So to go back to the spiritual world, to be with Krishna and his associates there. Either to go to Goloka, Vrindavan, or Vaikuntha, or to become conscious of Krishna here and engage in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. So that's the highest truth. And luckily for us, we happen to be engaged in that pastime. We may not know it's a pastime. We may think we're also part of the material world. But actually it's a pastime of Lord Chaitanya that we're engaged in. And that the devotees we're engaged in with, they're part of Krishna's eternal servants. Because as long as they're engaged in Krishna's, in this devotional service that Prabhupada has given us, then we're engaging in the spiritual world, because everyone is in this movement following Prabhupada's instructions are actually under the spiritual energy. And by definition, if you're in the spiritual energy, you're in the spiritual world. So whether we know it or not, most of the time, still we're in the spiritual world, engaged in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission and pastime. So that's not ordinary. That's why we can laugh about some of the crazy things that go on in the material world, because for the most part, we're not part of the material world anymore. But we have to become more part of the spiritual world, because there's an element of confusion as well as our activities of devotional service, and therefore we think we're part of the material world sometimes. So here he explains the difference and what actually we're trying to achieve. Now, most people are satisfied, happy to just be alive nowadays. If you can just breathe if you can breathe another, fill our lungs with air, and we feel quite fortunate. But here Krishna says, Sarva Karmani Manasa, that's the other. Nadate kasritet papam, na papam supritim vibhum, agyana navritam jnana, tena muyanti jantava. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers the real knowledge. So the real ignorance that we have is we think there's something other than Krishna going on. But factually, there's only Krishna going on, either under his internal energy or under his external energy. But there's only Krishna happening. Those who are fortunate, they're trying to become at least Krishna conscious. If not to one degree or another, we are Krishna conscious. And those who are unfortunate, they believe that there's something other than Krishna going on, or some other goal in life for them to become Krishna conscious. So, purport, the word Sanskrit Vibhu means the Supreme Lord was full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. So, probably, so the word is nadate kashite papam na chaiva sukritim vibhum. So Krishna knows everything, and he's full of all opulences. He has nothing to gain from any of us. In other words, Krishna is not an ordinary person, and that he's sitting there judging us. This is a good soul. I like the way they look. I think I'll give them some benediction. This soul I don't like very much. I don't know why I'm bothered going around with him. It's really a pain. I wish I could get out of it, but I'm stuck with this guy forever. No, Krishna doesn't see like that. Krishna is fulfilling everyone's desires according to what they deserve, because Krishna's affection for the soul. He has hope that in the future the soul may wake up, but Krishna's attitude towards the soul is always the same, whether he wakes up or not, because Krishna is in love with everyone. It's like even we have bad parts of our existence, we still love ourselves anyhow. So we're all expansions of Krishna, so therefore Krishna loves, just as Prabhupada said, it's like if you look in a mirror and you see the reflection in the mirror, you like the reflection because it reminds you of you. So Krishna, when he sees anyone, reminds of them, they remind him of himself, and he loves himself. So he loves everyone because everyone's an expansion of himself. Now he would like everyone to be happy, but most people in the material world, they don't know, especially in Kali Yuga, they don't know what the path of happiness is. And even if they know something about it, they don't really interested in getting the full happiness. They want to go to the heavenly planets and enjoy there. But Krishna is not really happy about them either. Happy in the sense that he still understands that it's only a temporary vacation in the heavenly planets and they have to come back again. So Krishna is quite unhappy in one sense to see others unhappy. So it's like his representatives like Srila Prabhupada, they're unhappy to see others happy, paradukkha dukhi. Therefore, whatever they do, the pure devotees like Prabhupada, is all meant to help others become conscious of Krishna. They don't see Dhira, Dhira, Janat Priyo, Priyakaro. That the six Goswamis, the Dhira, the sober, and the unsober, they appreciated everyone and tried to get everyone engaged in chanting Hare Krishna, because they knew that's the only hope for anyone in this age. So Krishna is full in all opulence, and therefore he doesn't need anything from us except for our love and our appreciation. He doesn't even need that, but that's what he knows, that and if we love him, then we'll be happy. And if we're happy by loving him, then he's happy by loving us. One less problem to deal with. Right now we're part of his problem list. But he's trying since time immemorial to solve that problem. If you think we have problems, just imagine his problem. So many living entities that he has to deal with. So he's always satisfied himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity. If the living entity bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life. Therefore his chain of action and reaction begins. So this is the most important point. Our whole conditioning in the material world is all due to our desires. But actually this desire is probably explained here that we don't have any independent desires. I'll read this. The living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. That doesn't mean we know everything. It means we know qualitatively reality by nature. As Krishna will explain reality in the Bhagavad Gita, what reality actually is. The Lord is omnipotent. Nonetheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. So we're just accepting something's going on other than the reality that the super soul is in our heart, trying to tell us what we can do to become conscious of Krishna. Like he'll say, chant Hare Krishna. Or read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. That's conscience. I know every time I take a shower, Krishna keeps on reminding me to take that little machine that someone gave me so I can listen to a lecture of Prabhupada. So even if I'm in the bathroom, then Krishna says, go get the machine. And as long as we go get the machine, then he reminds us. We say, oh, come on, Krishna, just leave me alone. Keep on bothering me. Krishna says, okay, I won't bother you anymore. So these little things, Krishna reminding us, we should understand this is actually Krishna talking to me. That it's not going on by some kind of accident. It's that Ishvara Sarvabhutanam, Krishna in our heart. He's trying to help us, and for the devotee, he keeps on reminding us to do our devotional activities. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced that you have some rounds left and you think you've chanted all your rounds. And then it's 9 o'clock at night and you look at your bead bag and you see there's a couple extra rounds. How did that happen? Because Krishna led you to the bead bag so you could see the 2 rounds left, whatever it is. So Krishna is trying to help us, and he's not trying to teach us how to become, a great scholar or how to do yoga, how to do gymnastics. He's just trying to remind us to chant our rounds. And when we're chanting, he's trying to remind us in Prabhupada's instructions how to chant. But our minds are just filled sometimes with all these different thoughts, and we get bewildered by them, distracted by them, and we forget how to do the most basic things in Krishna consciousness until, the last counter bead goes down and oh, what a relief. I'm free. I'm a good person today. But actually Krishna is just trying to remind us of what we've already understood in Krishna consciousness, what we know we should do. And if we do that, then Krishna will remind us some more until we're more and more guided by Krishna in what we're doing. And then filled in the gaps of our journey into the illusory energy and our getting pulled out of the ocean of material existence for a while, breathing a few mantras and then going back to the ocean of misery. Krishna is trying to pull us out, but we keep on diving back in. So, the Lord is Vibhu or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. Because he's a living soul, he has a capacity to desire by his free will. So that we have a capacity to desire what we desire, that's up to us. That's according to what we think is going to make us happy. If we think something's going to make us happy, we can actually desire it. And there's happiness in the mode of ignorance. There's happiness in the mode of passion. There's happiness in the mode of goodness. And we're addicted to different types of happiness. And then there's transcendental happiness. So that Krishna will explain what transcendental happiness later on in this chapter is. But we have certain types of happiness, just like, for instance, we can eat in the mode of ignorance. We can eat in the mode of passion. We can eat in the mode of goodness. Or we can eat transcendentally. But anywhere we eat, we'll be happy. That's why prasadam is so important. Because it doesn't matter how we eat, we feel happy because we're eating. We don't feel so happy sometimes sitting in a class. Wondering how did they put this person there. Or I'm tired, or I'm hungry. I don't know how I got here. But at least with prasadam, as long as it tastes good, then everything's good. Therefore, Prabhupada used to put in 22nd Avenue, we had a jar of glubdamins that he made. And if anyone wanted to bloop at that time, they leave the movement, they were instructed they had to take a glubdamin out of the pot, out of the jar, before they left. That way so many devotees wanted to leave, but after they took the glubdamin, they got addicted, so they had to stay. So that desire is good, because it kept people engaged in Krishna service. Because the tongue is a very important thing in order for happiness in the material world. The tongue is very important for happiness. Izik. Because people love to vibrate the tongue and talk. Isn't that right? I think especially the ladies, they feel good when they speak. Isn't that right? It makes them feel good just by talking. They don't really care what they're saying. So they, like a man, for instance, as far as sometimes a woman's talking, she's telling all the problems. The man thinks he's supposed to solve them. And he starts giving the lady advice, but that's the last thing she wants to hear. She just wants to talk. Then she feels good because she's talking. So similarly with prasadam, if the prasadam tastes good, usually most of the devotees in the movement couldn't care less whether it's healthy or not, as long as it tastes good. It's prasadam. Therefore, Prabhupada made the point. They usually just say all kinds of prasadam is good. So that's great. Pizza, ice cream, it's all transcendental. And if you get sick, it was because of some germ that came along. Nothing to do with the 3 gallons of ice cream. Because living in such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. The Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation he may desire. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body, becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. So the thing is, if we have the right desire, we dovetail our desires with the right desire, then we realize gradually that we're not the body. that we're spiritual beings, and that we're being guided by the super soul. He can help us, guide us to Krishna consciousness. And if we do have the wrong desires, or the desires that don't help that, don't bring us in contact with the super soul, so the super soul can guide us to Krishna, to the activities of Krishna consciousness, then we become bewildered, and we actually think that we're part of the material world again. We think others are part of the material world too, but none of us are part of the material world. We're transcendental, but we're living a dream. Not necessarily a good dream, but it's a dream. So the Lord is the constant companion of the living entities, Paramatma, or the super soul. Therefore, he can understand the individuals. Therefore, he can understand the desires of the individual soul, as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. So Krishna desires a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. So Krishna handed us over to the material energy that we're in right now. Just like we, for some reason or another, which I don't think we're able to understand, we decided to become apart from Krishna. Think ourselves to be apart from Krishna. So Krishna, in order to fulfill that desire, he put us into the material nature. And this material nature is programmed, but in such a way is that it's a machine for fulfilling desires. And all those desires are all centered around imagining ourselves to be somehow or another apart from Krishna. Although no one is ever apart from Krishna. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami, when he saw the Nawab Hussain Shah came to break up his Bhagavatam class, he offered him respect because he understood this is also Krishna's arrangement. After all, unless there was someone like the Nawab or Hiranyakashipu, we wouldn't have Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they're also instruments for Krishna. When Haridas Thakur was arrested in Nawab and put into prison, and the Nawab was saying, you're such a nice Muslim, you came from a good Muslim family, then why are you chanting Hare Krishna? Why are you degrading yourself like that? So Haridas Thakur, he was really, this person just an instrument for the illusion. He didn't take him seriously. He didn't hate him. He just realized that he's just playing the part of a nonsense, a person illusion. So Haridas Thakur said, or as Sanatana Goswami told the Nawab, that, do with me with what you want, If I'm favorable to you, then you can reward me. If I'm favorable, then you can chastise me. He thought, Sanatana Goswami probably said, Sanatana Goswami thought that Nawab would just let him go. Instead, he arrested him. But Sanatana Goswami, he paid respect to Nawab, but he didn't take him seriously in one sense. He realized he's a representative of Krishna because he's been empowered to do whatever he's doing. But he told the Nawab, you're just trying to inflict pain upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going on pilgrimage, Nawab heard about him, and his advisor said, don't take him seriously. But the Nawab was intelligent enough to he thought, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is surrounded by thousands of followers, and he's not paying them anything. So he must be, something special. He must be the God. Otherwise, why does anyone follow anyone if they don't get any payment for it? So he was intelligent enough to realize that this person is not an ordinary personality. He must be maybe he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he told his followers, don't bother him, don't disturb him. So Nawab, such a demon, he was going to Orissa and destroying the deities and harassing the Brahmins there. But still, Krishna gave him the intelligence to understand how to respectfully deal with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have to be careful that we don't get too much critical, in one sense, of these crazy people who are running the world nowadays. Because they're also instruments for Krishna, fulfilling everyone's crazy desires, or a reaction to their crazy desires. Someone has to do it, and therefore the most pious people, they get the position of leadership in the material world, because of their craziness, they take leadership because of their pious activities, but because they're also crazy, therefore they get the opportunity to do the most crazy things in order to award punishment to all the other crazy people in the world. So the most pious crazy people in the world get the opportunity to inflict pain upon all the other crazy people. But because of their sinful activities, therefore they become less than animals in the next lifetime. And all the other crazy people, they follow them. So the only thing that really has to be changed is people's desires. And the only way people are going to change their desires is to give them a higher taste. And the only higher taste we can really give them right now, for most people, is prasadam. And something about the holy name. But even prasadam, that depends upon the devotion in which it's cooked, for people to actually get the benefit from it. And even the holy name, that will depend upon how much we're actually Krishna conscious. Like nowadays, very popular is what do they call those? The kirtan melas. Yeah, you have devotees go in, they have long hair and a beard. They follow 3 regular principles. No meat, no fish, no eggs. And they have beautiful kirtans because they're expert musicians and whatever, and people think they're, of course anyone who chants Hare Krishna, generally with some adherence, some appreciation for Prabhupada, they'll get benefit and others will get benefited too. But not, we can see we've had kirtan melas for the last 30 years. And the conclusion I heard from some of the people who are attending it, you don't have to chant japa. it's too much of a bother. Just go to the kirtan mela. What's that?
Once a year.
In case she has some impurities. So there's some benefit, but it's not. The actual benefit will be if we, as much as we follow Prabhupada's instructions, as much as we bother to hear what they are, try to understand them, then we get benefit from it, spiritual benefit. Other than that, or we hear from those who are actually trying to follow Prabhupada, and because they're following Prabhupada, sincerely they got some experience and realization, they can also help us. But they should try to help us to become aware of the fact that the realm of Krishna consciousness is not cheap, and it's all, whatever benefit we're all getting, whatever it is, whoever we are, it's all because we're following Prabhupada to one degree or another. And therefore, to one degree or another, we've understood what Krishna consciousness is. But the simplicity of it, the reality of it, it's all coming from Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, because he was adherent to his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and etc., because he was connected with the Parampara, was ultimately connected with the 6 Goswamis and the Panchatattva, and ultimately with Krishna and his activities, both in the material and the spiritual world. But it's ultimately very simple. It's Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And therefore, if we understand those 3 things, then we won't have doubts that somehow or another we're in the wrong place. Or we are with the wrong people. We may think, oh, the philosophy is good, but the people right here around here are all bad. The philosophy is good, but the people are bad. Prabhupada was nice, but somewhere or another, his followers are all. No, actually, anyone who's trying to realize that he's eternal, who's doing the activities, they're under the spiritual energy. And gradually that realization, the fact that we're eternal, will be there. Because we're actually, in order to follow this process, even to a small extent, we have to be under the control of Paramatma. Because only Paramatma can actually direct us towards Prabhupada's teachings and understand them enough in order to apply them. And as soon as we do that, then we're under Krishna's control, to one degree or another. And Krishna's control is simply meant to, or Paramatma is guiding us, is simply meant to guide us to Krishna. Prabhupada once told Brahmananda Prabhu, he said, the only difference between you and I is that I can fall down and you can't. So when we're engaged in Krishna service sincerely, then we're on the spiritual platform. And we may forget, but Maya will help us remember again. Maybe not in the most pleasant way, but she'll help us. So Prabhupada writes, desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. So the real thing is who we're going to associate with. Now, of course, nowadays we have the internet. And since everything is so internationally connected, for instance, now we have the war going on in Iran. And now we're in India. And now gradually the war is, I guess it's Kuwait. I guess that's a country. And Emirates, and I'm not really very familiar with the Middle East. Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Dubai is a city, isn't it?
Yeah.
Emirates. So and we're getting closer and closer. So then naturally we're concerned. Could you, I was talking to Leela Sakti, one of my disciples from Peru, and she's stuck in Qatar.
No.
Yeah. What's that?
No, she's stuck in Japan now.
Yeah. She can't leave. She got on an airplane just some days ago, before the war started. Got in right on the time when the war started. Flew to Qatar, Doha. Got in she was in transit to go back to Peru, and she got on the plane. The plane went for 2 hours and then turned back to Qatar. And she's been in the hotel since then. She said she watches the helicopters around, trying to shoot down the drones that are attacking the hotels. And they keep on telling her, just wait, because I think they're evacuating some, according to Anantarupa Devidasi. In Dubai, at least, they're saying that there's flights going out. And I checked even my flights. I thought, well, Lufthansa, it's going to Europe, no problem. But the problem is that every flight from India has to go through that region normally. And just for your information. But in order to go around that area, they have to add so many miles up. And most of it's way beyond the normal amount of hours a crew is supposed to fly in an airplane. So there's a problem. So even Lufthansa canceled 1,300 flights There's a lot of flights. So to think, we might get used to being in India for a while. Could be worse places. Could have been visiting Tehran. In any case, the hearing here is hearing, because even we don't hear the internet, even you go in some secluded place and you give it, but we've heard so much nonsense since time immemorial going through our brains. Maya is constantly talking to us. And behind every message we have, there's a person. Now we may say, well, the main person I'm listening to in my mind is my mother or my father. They keep on telling me. Every time I go to sleep, my mother and father are talking to me. But they're also hearing from millions of people in the past. They're also in parampara, from the illusory energy. They're just repeating. As one devotee told me, he said, my father, this is a typical thing from the Netherlands. He said, I don't listen to anyone. I'm my own person. I only listen to what it says on television. Some people think they're independent. We have millions. We're in the parampara in the material world for billions of lifetimes of people talking nonsense to us, and it's still being reverberating within our minds, and we think we're free. But luckily, as Krishna will say in the next verse, or as Prabhupada said, if you light a match in the dark room, the darkness can't put the match out. So for all the nonsense we heard, none of them hardly ever told us we're not this body. Now Hiranyakashipu, he preached after Hiranyaksha got killed. He preached to his whole family that you're not your body. That Hiranyaksha, don't worry about him. He's gone to another better place, whatever. Don't worry. That he's not his body, he's a soul. So even Hiranyakashipu was preaching like that. And he was a big demon. So just to know we're not this body is not free. Is not sufficient. He never preached to his family to take shelter of the super soul. His idea is we're going to find the super soul and kill him. Take over the universe. So knowledge Brahman is nice, but people don't take it seriously. Only when we actually take shelter of the super soul, and only when the super soul is guiding us to perform devotional service, we can actually get out of this endless amount of bad association we've had since time immemorial, telling all kinds of crazy things. Some of them encouraging us to act in ignorance, some of them encouraging us to act in passion, and some of them rarely asking us to act in the mode of goodness. I guess we've been in Satya Yuga, we've been in all these different, so we have so many things running through our brains. So desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. So there's these desires that we've acquired from hearing. For instance, if we read Bhagavad Gita, generally we forget it. Isn't that right? We read it, we close the book, we can't remember what chapter I read. We're not quite sure it was the Bhagavad Gita. But if you watch a movie, you can't forget it. Because they spend billions of dollars sometimes, $1 billion, making a movie just to absorb people's brains. And especially, everything you're not supposed to see, they put into movies. So if you happen to watch it out of curiosity, then you're not going to forget it for weeks. Or you go and listen to the internet. You know, the whole materialistic experience is based on fear. You're going to die. Yeah, everyone knows they're going to die. We don't have to. We should be reminded of it. But their whole idea is that the same thing for Krishna. Krishna says you're going to die, so we take shelter of him. They say we're going to die so that we take shelter of them. So death is the major, fear is the major impetus for everyone. Either fear of falling to Maya or fear of getting out of Maya. Fear of getting out of Maya means, as Shukadeva Goswami concludes, that you have your father, you have the man has his wife, he has his children, he has his house, he has so many different things, because he thinks these are going to protect me. And the main protection we want is we want to be protected from death, from leaving this body, from everything we work so hard for, our whole circumstances and situation, because we've gotten accustomed to it. So that's the fear. And then we have to develop the fear of forgetting Krishna. Because if we don't develop the fear of forgetting Krishna, then we may wind up anywhere in this universe. So fear is always the impetus. The materialists, they use fear in order to convince us that we have to surrender to their instructions. Ultimately, they're using fear so that we become convinced that we should give up everything, take shelter of them, and be happy. You'll own nothing and be happy. That's also we're saying that too. We're saying we own nothing and be Krishna conscious and be happy. They're saying own nothing and become their slave. That will make us happy. So the Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. So we're simply desiring, and it's up to Krishna. If we have the right desire, then Krishna will encourage us and give us some experience in Krishna consciousness. And if we have the wrong desire, then Krishna will punish us. Not out of material nature will punish us, not out of enviousness, but out of an instruction that it's not good to not take shelter of Krishna. So the Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and eternally be happy. So we take shelter of this process, especially the morning program, and hear and chant about Krishna, and then do some service for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, according to our desire, according to our inspiration, according to our proclivity. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, will encourage us, and we'll get experience of what it's like to be conscious of him, to be able to feel his presence, remember feel the loving exchanges between his associates, and that's real happiness. If we are sincere enough to follow the process, then gradually Krishna, one way or another, or unless he'll give us nice prasadam, worst comes to worst. And he'll give us a good digestion so we can eat the prasadam. Because that's probably really emphasized that we heard. Health first. Because if you're not healthy, you can't digest prasadam. Then there's no impetus to stay in devotional service. So prasadam should always be nice. And we should be healthy so we can digest it. Then there's some possibility of chanting Hare Krishna and not being so much worried, because the main worry that we have every day is number one worry is if we're going to get something good to eat today. And we get something good to eat. As they say in Spanish, barriga llena, corazón contento. If the stomach's full, then the heart is pleased. And the other thing is we have to have some place to sleep. If we have those two things out of the way, then unfortunately sometimes my life is successful. It was a good day. I had a place to sleep and I had something to eat. And no one bothered me too much. Except for a monkey jumped on David Asi's back yesterday. She didn't have anything with her either. Obviously past association, some past life. Tried to pat you on the back, but and now Krishna goes on to say, therefore the embodied soul by an immoral desire to avoid Krishna consciousness causes its own bewilderment. So if we're bewildered, if we're identifying with this body, which is the main bewilderment, just because of our immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness. But somehow or another we have to acquire a higher taste. And that higher taste usually is just showing Krishna a little bit of our sincerity, that we're willing, under difficult circumstances, to become interested in spreading his mission. When Krishna sees that, as he says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, then he becomes very pleased. There's no one more dear to him than someone who's trying to participate in spreading Krishna consciousness. It's not a question of any position. It's not a question of even any amount of, great learning. It's just sincerity to try to help others become Krishna conscious. Experiencing some happiness in Krishna consciousness ourselves, and then trying sincerely to help others become Krishna conscious too. Then Krishna will give us Krishna consciousness. He'll make us Krishna conscious, because that's the only way we can spread Krishna consciousness. So if we want to spread Krishna consciousness, have some desire to do that, then Krishna will help us. Then he'll give us Krishna consciousness so we can give it to others. We can't give to others what we don't have ourselves, and just by the very desire to give Krishna consciousness to others, then Krishna will give it to us. Even we don't know what we're doing. That's why Bhakti Tradition is so good. Because whatever our desire is going out there, then Krishna will empower us. Because he wants so much to distribute transcendental knowledge. Even we have some of the desire, like to make money, or to become, get our name read on the Sankirtan newsletter. Still Krishna will empower us to do it because it's so dear to Krishna, to spread Krishna consciousness, this transcendental knowledge. And then he'll give us a higher taste too. So gradually we realize it's nice to get the Lakshmi. It's nice to have our name read. It's also nice to be enthusiastic, to feel Krishna's presence when we're trying to distribute Krishna consciousness. So both will be there. He'll fulfill our desire, so we get what we need, or what we want. And at the same time, we'll get the inspiration by becoming in contact with Krishna. I remember when I was doing the lots. I was like 19 years old or something, and 20 years old, every day we go out to the parking lots. And I thought I was going to do this for the rest of my life. Approach ladies leaving the supermarket. Run up to them when they're at the car and putting the groceries in, and hand them a book and try and convince them to take it. I thought that was going to be the rest of my life. But since I was a temple president, we had to make money also. Therefore, I vowed every day I was going to make $100, which was at that time, I guess, $300 nowadays. So every time I went out, I'd start with $100 in my mind, And every donation I got, I'd subtract from the $100. And towards the end of the day, if I had like $15 left or so, Krishna always said, usually, I don't know, always, but from my memory is generally, he'd always send someone to give me the $15. I'd make up the $15 by the end of the day because I had such a strong desire to get that $15. No, all I saw was everyone who walked by looked like they were $15. I couldn't see people, I could only see their wallet. And Krishna, because that desire, as I said before, when I was distributing the top, we had in Chicago at that time, you probably don't know who the names are, but we had a devotee named Tripurari Maharaj, Raghosh, Vaishasika, Naikatma, and I was there too. And we had this competition amongst ourselves to see how many books we could distribute, because that was important, but also how much Lakshmi we could make. So as I said, when I saw someone distributing a book, then because we had such a competition, I think Krishna, if he sells him that book, I'll lose the competition. But when, my Krishna didn't listen to me, so. But I get so envious. But it would just heat me up, such a strong desire to distribute the book and catch up. That Krishna, practically out of nowhere, people would come and take the book. Just because of the intense desire. I mean, sometimes at Radha Damodar, I'd go out, and we were distributing the whole day, and then we had this competition amongst ourselves. And it would be like 11, 12 o'clock at night. We would still be competing with each other. We wouldn't go to sleep. Because he'd find out he just got $20 from them. He'd just go out to especially the supermarkets, go through the aisles of the people who work there and get $20 out of them. So I remember one time we were doing that to 12 o'clock at night. And a policeman came and said, just go to sleep.
I need $20 more. I need more $20.
Oh, by that time I usually won the competition. or I was so tired it really didn't matter. I mean, I had the same thing in college, Somewhere or another, I was brought up in this family which was so competitive. I was supposed to be like, everyone in my family was a millionaire, except for me. And I was supposed to be the most intelligent one in the family. So, like so many years, my family was like disappointed because I was the one who got all the top honors in the college, and they thought, well, at least a millionaire. Then when I became a Hare Krishna, it was like, my gosh, what happened? But later on, my parents changed because they had no choice. But I remember in college, trying to get straight A's all the time. And at the same time, which I did most of the time, but then when I became a Hare Krishna, it was really trying to. Actually, I felt better because there's such a fever when you're trying to get, compete against. My college, I think there was like 40,000 people going to it, students trying to compete against 40 or 50,000 students. It was really quite disturbing. My girlfriend, she didn't like it either. She was quite intelligent. So, I remember when I was invited to meet with the dean, because if you were on the top honors, then you had dinner with the dean, but she would always discourage me from going there. She didn't take it very seriously. Anyhow, desire, as it says here, is a very important part of. For the materialists, they're driven by desire to do something useless. And for the devotee, they're driven by desire, somewhere or another, just to dovetail that desire to become Krishna conscious and distribute it to others. At the same time, Krishna will fulfill to a large extent our desires, and at the same time will give us some higher taste in Krishna consciousness, which will serve for our eternal benefit, although he may give us temporary benefit too. So we're quite fortunate, because whatever benefit we get from the material desires we have, usually is not very auspicious, and is only temporary, the best. So whatever desires we have, even if they're somewhat mixed in devotional service, still, we'll get that benefit, and at the same time we'll get eternal benefit by doing something for Krishna and trying to become sincere. And Krishna gives us some experience with actually association with Him as pure devotees are like. He'll give us the intelligence gradually. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for this exposition.
I would like to ask.
Говорится о том, что между любовью матери к ребенку возможно
They say that in the love of mom to a child,
частично проявится према.
partially prema can manifest in the love of mother to her child.
No, Prabhupada never said that. Prabhupada said the closest thing to love in the material world is the relationship between the mother and the child. It's definitely not prema. But because generally speaking, the mother, what is she going to get out of the child? So there has to be some degree of selflessness. Because nowadays, the mother looks at the child as an investment. My son will grow up and take care of me. It's always there. But still, there's a hope for some future return, perhaps. But still the mother has to take care of the child. He's crying, can't sleep at night, got to change the diapers, got to work, in order to feed the child. And so, there's a good deal of selflessness there. So that's karma yoga. And of course, the child, he thinks that this is my child. Expansion. So naturally there's some appreciation. Same noise as me. Must be good.
А если преданный, когда пытается служить и делает что-то бескорыстно,
And if a devotee tries to serve and does something selflessly,
без ожидания, без
without any expectation or any condition,
возможно какая-то часть проявления божественного?
Can there be any demonstration of God's love, manifestation of God's love? If it's
everything is Krishna. It's all Krishna's energy. So to some extent or another, it reminds us of Krishna. Otherwise, why would if we weren't getting pleasure from relationships with others in the material world, we wouldn't have them. Because it reminds us it's Krishna's energy, so it gives us some experience of Krishna. But it's not very much. But we don't know that. Because we don't know what the real experience is. But there's some experience. Otherwise, everyone would just stay in their room and look at their cat. Or their goldfish in the tank. So there must be something there.
У нас есть наша природа, надо ее задействовать, как же правильно?
We have our nature, so we have to enjoy our nature in it. And if we do, how to?
Nature?
Like Swami.
Yeah, well, that's what we... Right now, our nature is not very much... Usually in the way our society is organized doesn't give much room for using our nature in Krishna service. Unless you're a musician in your last lifetime. Or you sold things. Then you have plenty of, or you wave sticks of incense. But as far as other things, we're not so much advanced. I mean, there is opportunities if you want to manage things. You can become a temple president or something, and deal with all kinds of problems. Don't get paid. Anyhow, if our nature is to take a lot of criticism for nothing, for free, it's a perfect occupation. Or if you like to sell things. Or you like to play music. But there may be other things we could do too. But that will be developed in the course of time. Anything else? Yes.
Sometimes some devotees, they ask me, who is your guru? And then I would sometimes reply to them, Srila Prabhupada. And some devotees say, yes, of course. And then others say, no, cannot be. So, is it...
Well, we're not Ridviks. This idea to jump to Prabhupada. Now, Prabhupada, obviously the whole movement is based on Prabhupada. The whole movement is a manifestation of Prabhupada's energies. But Prabhupada's energies are not independent either. They're all coming from Krishna. So, to think that I'm a disciple of Prabhupada is not wrong, because then it's the same way we may think we're a disciple of Sri Rupa Goswami. Maybe a little different, in the sense that Sri Prabhupada did manifest the movement, and in the movement he gave at least indication that we have different types of gurus within the movement, Shiksha and Diksha gurus. So to negate the Shiksha and Diksha gurus that we have in the movement and think I'm going to, my guru is Prabhupada, then we're just negating the movement that he created, and therefore we're actually negating Prabhupada by doing that. In other words, if Prabhupada really wanted that he should be the only guru within the society, either Diksha or Shiksha, he wouldn't have written all these books so that we could repeat them. He just would have, recorded a few, some lectures and told everyone, just listen to my lectures, don't listen to anyone else. But in his lectures, he keeps on telling about how everyone is an instrument for Krishna. And if you're engaged in devotional service, then you're also an instrument for him by hearing his teachings. So we negate these instruments that Prabhupada set up, Shiksha or Diksha, then we're actually negating his teachings, and we're neither a disciple of Prabhupada a complete disciple at least, nor are we a disciple of anyone else. We're a disciple of our imagination. Incomplete knowledge, that's all. To think that something, just like, for instance, all of us were just instruments of Krishna, either under the internal energy, the spiritual energy, or under the spiritual energy, or the material energy. So if one is actually acting on the spiritual energy, then it's actually Krishna acting. So to negate someone with a position within the society and say, well, they don't exist. I took initiation from someone, but they don't really exist anymore. It wasn't really an initiation. Then we're negating what Prabhupada set up, what Krishna set up. And therefore we're not really a disciple of Prabhupada, because we're not even willing to accept what he created through his energies. And not only that, it's not only Prabhupada's energies, it's Krishna's energies. So when we negate what Prabhupada created as a representative of Krishna, then we're negating both him and we're negating Krishna. That actually the super soul is directing everyone in this world, and that those who are following Prabhupada's instructions with the help of the super soul, they're actually manifesting his mercy in this world. And if we negate that, then we negate everything about Krishna consciousness. For instance, the Ritviks say that you don't need, Prabhupada's the guru. But then Prabhupada said that, he trained up the devotees to distribute the Krishna consciousness, distributing books, preaching, giving lectures, whatever. Even when Prabhupada was 68, Prabhupada had his disciples giving the Janmashtami lecture. So if Prabhupada thought that I'm the only guru and everyone else is just useless, why would he have his disciples give the Janmashtami lecture? Repeat the same knowledge that he had. He wasn't just playing around, but he was actually listening to what they said, because they were actually working as an instrument for Krishna. Is that clear?
Yes.
Of course, we have a direct relation with Prabhupada, just like we have a direct relation with Rupa Goswami. So Prabhupada said in one lecture that if you get up in the morning and go to Mangal Arati, then you're serving the lotus feet to Rupa Goswami, because that's his instruction, the nectar of devotion. He didn't tell us to take initiation from Rupa Goswami, but he told us to serve his instructions. So similarly, we follow Prabhupada's instructions, but then again, we also, part of his instructions is how to follow other people's instructions too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have created temple presidents. He wouldn't have created GBCs. He wouldn't have created, sannyasis, if the only instruction we're supposed to follow is his instruction. And if we follow anyone else's instructions, then they become a guru. Type of guru to us, either shiksha or addiction or whatever. And if we negate that, then we become, a star. Is that clear? Anything else? All right. What's the program for Prahlada?
Here we have some drinks outside.
Okay. Could we distribute it?